right, video number 2. So now we're going to take a look at two-step equations with negatives. And so each example I go through with you, just like yesterday, is going to have some type of negative value within those two steps that we'll have to remember our integer rules for to help us solve. So let's take a look at number 1, where you have, so on your paper, right, line paper, we're going to write down 6m plus 1 equals negative 23. Super important, like we talked, making sure you show work, especially now since we're looking at negatives. Definitely, you could very easily make a mistake if you show the work incorrectly or just not show work. And with those negatives, you could very easily get confused with your rules and get a wrong answer. So please make sure, again, I'm asking very, very, very kindly that you're showing your work. So remember we started with isolating the variable, right? So if I take a look at where the variable is in number 1, there it is, 6m, right? So m is our variable, which means the reason why we do that, the reason why we want to know where the variable is so that we can then take a look at what is added or subtracted to the equation, because now we need to get rid of that first. That is our first step. So you're going to see plus 1. Well, I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to subtract 1. And we talked about balancing. So over here on the right, subtract 1. Right? So on both sides of the equal sign, you have balanced your equation by subtracting 1. Remember, we want this to be 0, and it is. Positive 1, negative 1, 0, gone. Now we need to be careful here on the other side with our integer rules. We have negative 23 and a negative 1, right? So when you subtract a value, subtracting 1, it's making that value of 1 negative. Anytime you have that subtraction sign in front of a number like this, a positive number, it's turning it into a negative. It is a negative 1. Negative 23, negative 21. When you have two negatives, you add them together, negative 24. So I'm going to cross out what is 0, because remember, that's gone. And we look at what's left, right? We have 6m and we have negative 24. All right, so I'm going to write that down. 6m equals negative 24. This is the multiplication part of the two-step. And if we see 6 times m equals negative 24, we're going to use division, the division property of equality, to solve. So we're going to divide by 6 on both sides to balance, just like that. We talked yesterday about how when you look at dividing by 6, 6 divided by 6, right, that should give you a positive 1. Oops. Let's try it again. Positive 1. M equals. So now with your integer rules, right, up top here in the first step, we had to do integer rules with add, subtract. Now we're down here in this second step, and now you have to think about your integer rules with multiply, divide. So you have a negative 24 and a positive 6. One negative divided by a positive is a negative answer, negative 4. So 1m, or m, equals negative 4. So I'm going to show checking this answer. So over on the right, let's talk about 6 times, and I'm going to bring that negative 4 in that I solved for m, times negative 4 plus 1 equals negative 23. So I'm checking to make sure that my answer is correct. 6 times a negative 4. When you multiply by 1 negative, 6 times negative 4 is negative 24 plus 1 equals negative 23. So I'm looking to see, does it balance on the left and the right? Your add, subtract integer rules. If you have a negative 24 and you're adding 1 to it, 1 negative, 1 positive, you take the sign of the higher number and subtract. That's negative 23. And sure enough, it balances on both sides. So those integer rules, right? We talk about how strong we have to be with those, because now when you do these 2 steps, you're going to have to know those integer rules with your add subtract and also with your multiply divide, all within a problem. Let's look underneath number 2. Negative 5x plus 8 equals negative 2. So I locate the variable. There it is. There's x. That means I need to get rid of this plus 8 that is attached to this currently. I need this to go away. So that means to get rid of it, I'm going to subtract 8. I'm going to use the subtraction property of equality, subtract 8, and balance on both sides. Here, positive 8, negative 8, 0, gone. Negative 2 plus a negative 8. You borrowed $2 from me, so you owe me $2. You borrowed another $8 from me, negative 8. You owe me 10, negative 10. Negative 2 plus a negative 8, negative 10. This is gone. Okay, so looking at what's left. I have negative 5x left. And I have negative 10. Alrighty. So we need to get rid of the negative 5 that is being multiplied by x right now. To get rid of that, right, we're going to use division. I need to divide by negative 5. So if you don't divide by a negative 5, exactly what you see that you're being multiplied, x is being multiplied by, you're going to make a mistake. Make sure you carry that negative with it. Remember, you need this to be a positive 1, because negative 5 divided by a negative 5, a negative divided by a negative, is a positive. That does give you a positive 1x. Be very careful when you have a negative next to the variable. You have to divide by that negative. So when I balance over here on the right, I'm also going to divide by negative 5. Negative 10 divided by negative 5, positive 2. When you divide two negatives, you get a positive, positive 2. 1x, or x, equals 2. I'm going to check this answer as well. So I'm going to make sure that if I take negative 5 times 2, my answer, and I add 8 to it, do I get negative 2? Negative 5 times 2, negative 10. Plus this 8, I'm looking to make sure it gives me negative 2. Negative 10, positive 8. You owe me $10. You gave 8 of it back to me. You still owe me 2. Negative 2 equals negative 2. It balances on both sides. I did the equation correctly. Okay, going to the right side here, number 3. So these are some subtraction ones here. So we have number 3, negative 3y minus 5 equals 10. We're still going to locate that variable. I see it right at the front here. So there's my y that I need to isolate. Now this subtracting 5, minus 5, this is what I need to get rid of first. So I know I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to use the addition property of equality and add 5 and balance on the right and also add 5. Negative 5 minus 5, negative 5, plus 5, 0. 10 plus 5, 15. All right, I know I can cross this out. It's gone. Now what do I have left? Negative 3y equals 15. All right, so this was just like number 2. You have a negative with the variable here. And I said you have to make sure this is a positive variable that you're solving for. This has to be a positive y. which means when I go to use division to solve, I need to divide by that -3. Divide by that -3. -3 divided by -3, +1. Why? 15 divided by a -3. When you divide, one negative is negative, -5. 1y equals -5. Okay, I'm going to check this one as well. I'm going to make sure that I can take -3 in my original problem, multiply by the answer of y that I got, times -5, minus 5 equals 10. Okay. -3 times -5, +15. Two negatives multiplied together is a positive. +15 minus 5, does that give me 10? Sure does. Checks out. Whoops, I can leave that. Okay, number 4, let's find w. We see it here on the left at the very beginning. I need to get rid of this subtracting 4. So in number 4, we're working on -4w minus 4 equals 8. Getting rid of that -4, that -4. Add 4 on both sides. -4 is 0. 8 plus 4 is 12. Crossing this one out because it's now gone. And I'm going to bring down what's left. -4w equals 12. So I keep saying how you have to be very careful if there's a negative, when you get to this part, the second step, if there's a negative in front of the variable, that you have to divide by a negative because you want a +1w. If you were to make this mistake, right, if you were to divide by a +4, -4 divided by a +4 is not +1. It's actually -1w. And that's not what you want, right? We can't have that. It can't work that way because every time we isolate that variable, it needs to be a positive variable for us to get our true answer for w. So we have to make sure that that negative is there. -4 divided by a -4 now gives me a +1w. And then when I divide by -4 on the other side to balance, 12 divided by a -4, -3. Okay, so w equals -3, and I'm also going to check this one as well. So I'm going to come over here, -4 times my answer of -3, minus 4. I'm looking to make sure that it balances, and I see 8 on both sides. -4 times a -3, +12. +12 minus 4, that's 8. And absolutely, again, it balances. So the integer rules, we've talked numerous times about how important they are. Make sure you are comfortable with them. So when we're doing these right now with these equations, these 2 steps, if you're struggling with those integer rules, take them out and put them next to you. Make sure you have them beside you. I'll actually put a link after this video is done. I'll put a link back on the agenda if you need those integer rules, if you need that link and you need it to see it to remind you how those work, okay? I'm going to do 2 more like I did yesterday. So this is the same setup. I'm going to do 6 problems with you, and then you're going to try 6. So number 5. Let's find the variable. So we've got -3 plus 8n equals 5. The variable's in the middle this time, right? So I see that n. Now, I need to see what's added or subtracted to it. Well, it's adding -3 right here. I need this to go away. Well, that means I need to think about what the opposite is of -3. Because remember, You're trying to make this 0 and not a part of the problem anymore, right? You need to take care of this one step. Well, the opposite of -3 is +3. Adding +3. If I add +3, -3, +3, there's 0, right? Those opposites create that 0, and I know it's gone. Okay, so on the other side, to the far right here, underneath the 5, we're going to add 3. And that's going to give me 8. So we talk about, okay, what's left? What do I bring down? I got to bring down that 8n, and I need to bring down that 8. So I have 8n equals 8. This is your final step, right? So this again is saying, well, what times 8 is going to give you an 8? And I've been showing to solve, you use the opposite, you solve division. N equals 8 divided by 8 is 1. 8 times 1 is 8. Check this one. Over here, I've got -3 plus 8 times my answer of 1 equals 5. -3 plus 8 times 1 is 8 equals 5. Yeah, this balances. I did it right. N equals 1. Okay, number 6. This one looks kind of unique. And so what I tried to do is just put parentheses and isolate what you're seeing. You're seeing a fraction right now. So actually, let me do this. Let me rewrite this. So really, right, this is what it would look like. W over 2 minus 2 equals 6. So yes, you have a fraction there, and that's okay, right? We can still work with this. We're going to do the same steps that we've been working with your 2 steps. So we know, right, we find the variable. There it is, there's W. And so attached to that, I have a subtracting 2. I need to make that go away. So I'm going to add 2. And I'm going to balance on both sides just like that. This is going to give me 0 here. 6 plus 2 is going to give me 8. So I'm going to cross my 0 out because that's now gone. And left in my equation, I have W over 2 equals 8. Okay. So this is a division one-step problem at this point. And so you know then you always use the opposite to solve. So you see this fraction, you see that it's a division one step. You're going to use that multiplication to solve for it, which means I need to get rid of this 2 in the denominator here. So I'm going to multiply by 2. I'm going to balance by doing that on both sides of that equal sign. Multiply. Use that multiplication property of equality to solve. So what happens is this, the 2's cancel out. And you're just left with W. And then 8 times 2 on the right is 16, which makes sense. If I take that 16 and put it in for W here in this last step, 16 divided by 2 is 8. If I check this whole problem right now, so actually let me box this in because this is your final answer. If I come back, I'll do it underneath. If I take my answer and I plug it back into the problem, 16 divided by 2 minus 2, does that give me 6? 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 minus 2, yep, there's 6. It balances. You won't see many of these. You're going to practice one of them here next, but I definitely wanted to show you what that looked like as well. So let's go to the page that you're going to be working on. So you're going to see 7 through 12. You're going to practice 6 problems just like you did yesterday with negatives in there. And again, notice at number 12, I did put 1 in just like the last one we did. I did do a division one, a fraction one there. But go back to number 6 and use that as a guide to help you. I will have an answer key on the agenda, right? So you'll want to pause right here if your teachers are showing it on the screen up front, pause so you can see it on the screen up front, or if you're watching individually on your own Chromebook, pause it so you see the problems, write everything down, show the work, solve. It's always good practice to check your answers as well. When you're done, go and look at the answer key, look at my work, make sure it makes sense, and that you understand how I got those answers. Like I said, I will, as I'm ending this video, I will put a link back on the agenda to access the integer rules if you need those. So have a great Friday. Again, have a good weekend as well, and we will see you back on Monday.